What's the movement toward what? Lita'arafu. So that's the to acknowledge one another, right? Acknowledge the what? The many, but also the one in the many, right? And what is the one in the many? How is that qualified in this verse? Ataqakum. Ataqakum. Prophet Muhammad, he said that there's no superiority of one group over another. And we know the groups, right? He said the only real acknowledgement is what? What has formed in the conscience in terms of your relationship with God and how that relationship governs the direction for man in community. Ataqakum. One male, one female. Scattered into many disciplines, many interests, then reunited in a focus. And in order to respect the dignity of those individuals in those nations, you have to recognize what they hold in common in their human identity, in their human dignity. And once you have seen that, once you have elevated yourself to recognize and respect that, then you've come to the consciousness, etaqakum. Regardfulness. Regardfulness. Regardfulness of what? Regardfulness of God. What does God say in the Quran? That you are to regard him. What else are you to regard? The wombs, right? And what else are you to regard? The wombs, arham. What else are you to regard? The fire. That which troubles, that which by way of the appetites can mislead and corrupt. For what? For what? The ethnic purpose? No, the human purpose. The human focus, the human direction, the human destiny that is held in common. But how do we come to that? How do we come to that awareness? The Shu'aib challenge. So here's intellectual tradition, specific to a people, okay? But all of us have that. So in order for us to realize the guarantee that God promises, we have to what? Raise our recognition, raise our tastes to respect what we know represents the same movement for excellence in another people. We can see the mirror of it in another people. It's not the same language. It's not the same particular taste, but it has the same interests. I have this taste in fish or chicken or beef or whatever. I season it this way, but what is the interest? It's to what? Nourish me, right? It's to nourish me. Shu'aib is the justification for us to have distinctions and the argument to support those distinctions and not separate them from human purpose. That's the Shu'aib consciousness. Qaba'ila is the promise and the guarantee that we will uphold and work for not just a recognition of what we have in common, but to associate that commonality with God's eternal purpose for man. To say that that commonality is a sacred property, that's Qaba'ila. So this is movement. You know, you don't just come to this understanding all at once. This is a movement. It was a movement in us. And there are forces that exist right now that want to take us away from the conclusion for that movement. Qibla, it also suggests an unfolding like this. A process. So if you can imagine us facing in the direction of the sacred house at Mecca. Now, all of this is very significant because that's our Qibla. And the Prophet Muhammad, the prayers and the peace be on him, leading us in the Salat. So those closest to him, right there in the sacred precincts, if you can see this picture, when he says Allahu Akbar, they don't say Allahu Akbar right when he says Allahu Akbar. He says Allahu Akbar, then they say Allahu Akbar, right? So it's a process. And so eventually if we unfold it, unfold, eventually reach the West, right? And we say Allahu Akbar, right? But it has unfolded. And we are the beneficiaries of all of that unfolding. And we can see all of that unfolding. This is the movement of the Shu'aib consciousness. We see the benefit of all of that. And then we have a conclusion about it. Qaba'ila. We see it in the processes. And we say, this is the conclusion. This is the focus. This is what all of this commentary, all of this understanding, all of this up and down, all of this troubles in the life of man, this is what it has taught us. And now we have a determination of focus. So you go from being the diversity of man, right? Nations, tribes, the diversity of man, to what? Ummat al-Islamiyya, the unity of man. But in that unity is what? Recognition of these distinctions. That surah, pardon me, that a verse is in the surah that suggests privacy. And it establishes the principle in Islam that we cannot spy on each other. Okay? The principle in Islam that we're not to be looking in people's houses is established in this surah. So what is it saying? What is that saying? Hujurat. It's saying that you have to trust that what's going on in the private interest of the people is supporting. Now, their private interest is their distinction, right? Their distinction. I'm not just talking about what they're doing privately in their home. I'm talking about what they're doing in their perception of human life as an individual human group. Okay? So this surah is establishing the principle that you have to trust them to obey and be interested in by nature that purpose. You have to trust them with that. So you can't bring, you know, in Islamic teaching, you can't bring a charge of infidelity. It's impossible. It's almost impossible. You can't bring the charge. How can you bring it? You have to have 4 witnesses. Who can say that they peeped into somebody's house and saw the act? Four different people have to establish. That has been established. 4. So it's almost impossible to prove. So what is the interest there? What it's saying is that human life must be trusted and respected as God trusts and respected to realize its purpose in spite of its diversity. And you have to guard that principle. You have to guard that right. You can see how this thinking that we have, if America